Artie, hey, I managed to sneak my way into Talk Utah. I am here in Dr. Pinewood Derby Don's wood shop. Holly has issued a challenge to me at the Pinewood Derby at Union Station, and she thinks she's going to win. And if she wins, heaven forbid, if she wins, I'm going to have to wear a skirt and dance to mariachi music. And let's face it, I wouldn't look very good in a skirt. So I made a few phone calls. I got a hold of some people, and I've found the expert on building Pinewood derbies. Is that a fair statement?
I've had quite a little bit of experience with all my grandkids, yes. Right. I don't know whether I'm an expert or not, but I know maybe a few tricks.
Well, I got this kit, and I'll tell you, I cut my finger with a grinder, so obviously I have no business around anything sharp. So I went down, I got this kit from the Union Station, and is there anything you can do for me? And like, here's the rules. But I mean, I'm racing Holly, so we don't even need to worry about those things. Those are a formality. So, I mean, what kind of things can we do to make this go fast?
You take a look at your axles for one thing, and you have to smooth them up. And then you make sure as to where you're placing your weight, and just make sure everything's nice and smooth and lubricated and things like that. So the first thing you want to do, I guess, is just decide what design the car is going to be.
Well,
what do you want it to look like?
They're supposed to represent something at the Browning Car Museum. Oh, look at that!
And that's supersonic hydroatomic nucleizing nebulator right there.
And you could almost put an Estes rocket engine in the back of it.
Well, there's a spot for it, see? I've never raced this before. I've always wanted to try it, but so far it's never gone down the track. But we'll just set that aside. You know, there's other designs, like here's one that I started to carve out for one of my grandkids, but there's one other thing you got to be careful of, and that's when you place your weights. I'll give this as an example. When you place your weights, you want to have the weights as far back as possible, because when this thing tips on the track, this is higher and it'll come down farther, and the weight will be dropping. It'll be heavier, and it'll give it just a little bit of a boost on the bottom part of the track. But you got to be careful for one thing, because there's a pivot point right here, and if there's too much weight here, it'll pivot, and the front of it will come up off of the track. So you got to be careful with the weight on the front axle so that it's not too light and jumps off the track. So that's one thing we got to be careful of.
Well, I mean, Holly's a girl, so she's not going to think that far ahead. Let's be honest, you know.
Take a good look at these axles. This is nothing but a nail, and it's been fabricated as a nail. And if you'll see, there's the little crimp things right next to the head of that's very rough. You got to get rid of that. Now, most people will file that with a file. You can see underneath the head there's a little crimp underneath the head, as well as along the body. That's got to be taken off, and most people will do it with a file. But the file, unless it's got a real sharp corner, won't get into the corner, and the corner will still drag. I actually put this in a lathe and turn that off. I could show that to you if you want to see it, but maybe we will. But.
Yeah, it's high tech. This is serious business, and you just don't take and just nail them in there and go.
You want to. So what is the shape of the car you're going to want to? What's the shape of the car?
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't thought that far ahead. All I've worried about is this dress. This dress thing's got me concerned. I'll be honest with you. I'm really worried about it. I don't know. What would be a good design?
What you need to do is decide where your weights are going to go, and if you're going to drill holes for your weights, you better do it while it's in a block form.
You know what? I made that same mistake. I started making one, and I went to drill the holes, and yeah, it turned into a disaster.
Because you can't get a hold of the thing square once the body is designed and cut out. Here's one body that we've already made, and this will show you a little bit of the difficulty of drilling the hole once the body is already cut out. I do have a hold of it. I'm going to drill a couple more holes in it.
There's no way Holly's going to think of all this good stuff. There's no way.
Okay, there's room for one more hole in that, and I'm going to put one more hole in there.
Yeah, because, you know, the more weight we put in it, of course, is better. Oh, look at, yeah, we'll get 2 or 3 pounds out of that. That's good right there.
At least. Okay, now there's one that's got a typical maybe body design. It's just one that I figured out myself. And it's got the holes drilled for the weights in. And you can put as much weight in there as you want, or you could put in the exact amount that the regular rules ask for.
Well, it said 5 ounces, but I'm thinking, what's the difference between ounces and pounds, really?
I actually trim the wheels up so that they're concentric with the axle, and they got all the high spots off of them.
So that's just taking off just a little bit, right?
Just a little bit, because that particular part of the wheel isn't very thick, but you can see that it's going true now with the axle. That ridge is only about 100 thousandths, a little bit more in this case, but it's about 100 thousandths wide. So the wheel's only going to be supported by this amount of, which cuts down the friction of the wheel. I'm going to use just a little bit finer grit of paper on that. Okay, let's check it and see how smooth your wheel's going in it now.
Now polishing it just reduces the friction, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. I can't wait.
Now that'll even run smoother. Once just before your meet, you need to take and put a shot of WD-40 in there. Some people use a powdered graphite. But if you put a shot of WD-40 right down in there, that ought to really make that run smooth.
If I have to wear a skirt...
That one feels pretty good. See, that one even runs without any wobble to it. So that wheel's running pretty good. See that?
So if I win, I think Holly has to write a song and sing it about what a wonderful guy I am and how I beat her in Pinewood Derby. That's what I think.
Okay, now you load up your weights. I'm using 40 caliber slugs for this one.
Oh, that's even better. I don't think this gentleman condones what we're doing here. He's just a nice enough guy to help me out.
Well, this isn't official rules, but it ought to work. One other thing I could tell you, if you really wanted to get serious, I do sometimes. Let me see if I got an example. Just as an example, you see that mark on that body? That was put in with a dowel, and it actually burnt that area, which makes that hard. And if you do that, then of course that's less friction there. But don't ever paint over it. Once you paint your car, don't paint that area. Leave that area so that the wheel will rub against something that's hard and it'll be less friction.
Get a big old hammer and start smacking them nails in there, right?
No, they lay in there pretty good. Put it together like this. Give yourself enough clearance this way that it doesn't wobble too much, but it's got a little bit of play. There's your wheel. Look how that spins. Pretty good. Still got a little burr on it, but we can take that off. See that spinning?
Perfect.
Okay. I hope you win, because if you lose, oh, brother.
Look at that. Oh, geez. That thing is heavy. That's great.
I hope it runs.
What do you think that's about? I think it's about 4.5 ounces. I think that's right on the number for the weight. I think that's at least.
Okay. We'll finish it up, paint it up, and put it on the track. See what happens.
I can't wait.
Look out, Holly.
Yes. Oh. All Alrighty, folks, it's Farrell with Crowd Surfing. I'm down here with my buddy Don. Don helped me build a Pinewood Derby car to beat Holly, and this is built to spec pretty close, isn't it?
Other than the weight.
It's weighted perfectly. So come down Union Station May 9th and watch me beat Holly in a Pinewood Derby.